Hi, Martin. Welcome to episode 95, I think it is. Rounds.
Hello, Dave.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
You're
good.
good.
Looking forward to Christmas.
It's coming around, isn't it? It's coming around.
Yeah.
So the last time we recorded this, we did this a day or two before you were going to the Bound in Fire tournament. We're going to hear
Correct.
about that.
Yes, we're going to hear about that. Yep.
At the tournament, there was some very sad news. Our
Yes, absolutely.
good friend
Yeah.
Joe Arthur, we'd heard had passed away, and I think we mentioned this. I think even a few weeks ago, or a few episodes ago, how sometimes like we're seeing this more and more. Joe's a good friend, I think, and certainly had a lot of input in this, in the efforts that we were doing, even in terms of just popping in and saying hi. He was
When we were playing to record, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and was being, he was always quite, he was very pleasantly polite about all of our stuff. I think even though, we know that we make mistakes and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, his passing was a real shock to me. And I know it was taken as well at the tournament quite in quite a sad way as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did, in some ways, I didn't feel like I kind of knew Joe all that well, but I kind of began to realise just how pervasive he was in the hobby in a way, because he'd come in and see us, he'd comment on our videos, he played with it's called the Friday Fight Club or the Friday Night Club or whatever, that group of people. He's kind of very, very engaged in the hobby.
Yeah.
And I say I didn't know him that well, but he was such, so sort of kind and considerate to other people. He went out of his way because he thought I might be entitled to some benefits from the government because I was looking after my mum with Alzheimer, and went out his way, researched it, sent me all the links. Very, very, very kind guy. He will definitely be missed. It was a bit of a shock at the tournament. I think.
Absolutely.
I mean, people were worried because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because that was inexplicable, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I've got a couple of stories about him. Just I think it's worth talking about this. So the first thing is that I didn't really know Joe at all. It's funny how like some people you just don't cross at all in the even in the UK ASL scene. And I'd heard some not great things about him. Some people had some strange run-ins with him, and I saw the extent of one of them, and it was nothing terrible. In that he was every now and again a little bit. Like how I will struggle to be opinionated about something if you I don't know, whatever, you say something, I'll be like, okay, fine, whatever, in most instances. And I'd heard that he'd been a bit prickly, and I kind of was like, oh, I don't really want to play Joe. I've heard he's a bit prickly, and I played him, and I've told this story too many times. I'm not going to tell it again, but the how much of a gentleman he was throughout that whole game that I played with him, and it really showed me the extent of how you have to take how you find people with your own sense. I could have listened to people, and I'm not suggesting for a second they were wrong in anything they've said, but if I'd have just listened to those people, I'd have had this very, very different opinion of him. And Joe, I think I got to know quite well over the last couple of years, and has had a tricky life. He definitely did not walk an easy path. I think it was a very very well put kind of something was on the forums, but was ridiculously generous. And he was, I'm sure he won't mind me telling people, when he came to the UK tournaments, he would sleep in his van outside because he didn't have a lot of money, and so he didn't want to waste it on what he considered to be frivolous. In terms of staying at the hotel, he would kind of rough it in the car and everything. And that takes a certain amount of chutzpah or something to kind of decide to drive whatever it is, 150 miles up to Blackpool, and then to decide, okay, now I'm going to, because it wasn't particularly warm either, was it? And I remember then he would be just pleasant about everything, didn't complain about it at all, didn't moan, didn't and he asked me to store some of his ASL stuff. In fact, he said to me once, he said, oh, Dave, I've got to ask you a really big favor, and I was like, you can ask, like, can I store some ASL stuff? And I was like, no, you can store some ASL stuff here, no problems. And he did it, and then he just calmly said, well, it's because I might be homeless. And I was like, well, what do you mean you might be homeless? Like, and his mum was dying, and it was, and she was 93, and he was being very philosophical about it. And he was concerned about being homeless. And it was kind of like, this is the least I can do for someone is store your ASL. And so, of course, like any of us would store it, it's as much as an ASL kit's going to be. It's a few boxes, a few bits. he brought round, and I've said this, he bought 6 bottles of this beer here, and he brought another 6 bottles of this Trappist Monks beer. He bought this this glass here, which is the Trappist Monks kind of glass that you're supposed to drink this from, and he brought me this tank book just to say thank. And I'm like, this is a man that does not have a lot of anything really, and I would do, as we all would, anything for ASL players. But to go out of his way to kind of, and I didn't want this, and he was insistent of to. So today I'm cracking open one of these bottles in honour of Joe to say, well, look, the ASL world is a sadder place without him.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because the day we finished the recording, as I always do, I log into Vassal, we go through our game, I start doing the video editing and stuff, and then I forget to turn Vassal off. And Joe knows this. Joe knows because my Vassal screen stays still and it doesn't do anything, and it's it is what it is. And he always used to pop in and say, "Hey Dave, left your PC on again," kind of thing, just as a little kind of. And the day we did this, and I came back to my PC 6 or 7 hours later, I noticed he hadn't said anything, and I even registered thinking, "Oh, that's strange." Joe hasn't popped in, whatever. And to hear that he hadn't been well, it was a very, very brief illness, but so he is going to be missed, and an absolute gentleman to play across the board. And even we didn't have a run-in at all, but the biggest run-in we ever had was him kind of saying to me, he wanted me to roll my dice, in a dice cup before the dice tower, and me saying
no. He inspired an episode, didn't he?
Absolutely,
from that
exactly. Yeah. And he took that with good grace, and he didn't. Some people might have taken that being a bit like, oh, you had to prove a point, and it wasn't that. He was friendly and he was laughing about it, and we're a sadder place without him, and it's worth noting that his brother got in contact. I think you mentioned this. His brother got in contact with some of the ASL guys to say, I think as we know, but how much the family were aware of how much ASL was to his life in a way, and I think the same goes for a lot of us. And it kind of made me think a lot about how all of us really have a lot to thank for this hobby. And so, we should be grateful for the friends we have here and the times we have and the times we've got left, because we never know really how much time we've got left, I suppose.
Absolutely.
So that's my inspiring speech to you, Martin. So this is to Joe anyway, and hope
Cheers,
you're in
Joe.
a better place. Yeah. And it's really quite strong beer. It's really quite strong. It's 10%. It's 10% alcohol.
Wow, that is ridiculously strong.
Yeah, it's quite. This will be backwards, but it's in there somewhere. Yeah,
I see it. Yeah,
it certainly will put hairs on my chest at some point.
Make a man of you.
It will. You never played Joe, by the way? Did you play him?
No, never actually played him. No.
Okay.
Had a couple of chats with him, and no, never actually.
Very,
played him.
very good player as well. Very good player. So I'll never beat him anyway. That's that. We have some patrons to thank. So new patrons and old. So again, thank you for everyone who has supported us at whatever level throughout this year. We really appreciate it. 3 new patrons: Douglas Bush, Tyler Forsyth, and Michael Rogers, who certainly has done a lot of work, I know, on the archive. And I think I might have met Michael a long time ago in Bournemouth, I think. Certainly, I think the name rings a bell from that. So, Michael, if it wasn't you, I apologise. And if it was, I remembered. It's probably the best I can say about that. So anyway, thank you very much for your patrons. We will. I've updated the scenario archive, so you guys have access to the nicer graphics on the scenario pages. You are also eligible to take part in this month's competition, which is going to be to win the deluxe pack that was kindly donated by Jim Bishop. So that was there for the prize for this year's tournament. We all played deluxe scenarios because of it. However, we didn't have a winner because both winners and semi-finalists, or winner and runner-up, had already got the copy of that. So I would say to anybody who is after the MMP Deluxe pack, this is the new kind of cardboard boards. If they would like a chance to win that, let us know if you're a patron in the YouTube comments the best reason why we should give it to you. And if we've got a few good reasons, then we'll put it in a draw. But otherwise, if you're a patron and you'd like to win a copy of the deluxe pack, let us know, and we will do our best. So, whatever reason, I don't mind. Martin, maybe you can be the judge, and you can decide if they go in the hat.
Sure,
That's
go for it.
that's good. Good stuff. Good stuff. We've got an idea about our tournament for next year, which we will talk about at the end. We're also going to talk about your Bound in Fire tournament, Martin. I want to hear about that.
Yes.
We're going to talk about our day 2 of Sumeric Leagues, which is why it's taken us a little bit longer to get this episode out, because we've had to play all the way through that. And we've got a couple of other ideas as well that we're going to talk about, but also burnout, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode as well.
If we haven't had enough. Yeah.
We should mention your background, by the way. We should mention that you're not.
Oh yes, right. Yeah. Okay. So I've moved. Yeah. I've made my house look a bit posher. You see. No. I've moved my computer into my bedroom. And if you don't want to see my unmade bed and things like that, I thought I'll stick some random screen up in the background.
All right. And I'm slowly going redder and redder. I've got a portable heater on in this room. So what happens is the room gets hotter and hotter and hotter as the rest of the cold gets colder and colder. So I've been in a cold room. I've come into a very warm room, and I can see that I'm going slowly. So don't think I've got bad blood pressure or something like that. I'm just slowly roasting under this.
Isn't that how I looked that time I was really ill? Do you remember when at the beginning of COVID? I got redder and redder, and then I was collapsed.
Yeah, that's it. I was out at the West Ham game as well today. West Ham beat Manchester United, and my son is going through a bit of a stage of enjoying. He's become a Manchester United supporter, which is, I think, most parents' worst nightmare around their children. And I've given him a lot of indoctrination about West Ham, and it's just bounced off. So he's become this Manchester United fan. So I took him to the West Ham game today, and West Ham beat Manchester United. So that was wow.
Was he cheering at the wrong times?
No, he knows not to. He knows not to, because we're in a section of, I mean, it's quite a genteel kind of area where we're in, but there's still enough guys there with tattoos and West Ham tattoos on their foreheads that he knows not to. But yeah, that's that. So tell us about Bound in Fire, Martin.
Yeah, so it was a great event. I really enjoyed myself. I was really looking forward to just sort of getting away and just like forgetting everything. Sort of disappointed a bit that Martin Mayers wasn't going to be there, because he organised it the last few years with Simon. And so Simon took over as the kind of tournament lead this year, and Andy Bagley helped him out a little bit with organising the minis and things like that. It was kind of quite well attended. I think it was about 36 of us sort of all together. Really, really well organised. It, kind of just ran very, very smoothly. I think Simon was a bit anxious about some of the strict rules he was introducing. But he made it very, very clear at the beginning that games would be stopped and adjudicated after a certain amount of time if necessary. So we all had to sort of sign up to that before. Because I think there was some difficulties I think last year with games that were going on too long, and there was a bit of a dispute with whether they should be stopped and stuff. So it was really, really clear. But actually, I think all the games got finished within the time.
Right.
And just I had a disastrous record. I mean, I lost nearly all of my games. I won one game against a guy who was relatively new, and we had a friendly on the Sunday, and he beat me. So I didn't have a particularly good thing.
You played Toby?
I played Toby, and we were not able to finish the game. Unfortunately, he would have won it though. But in a very gentlemanlike way, he said, "Well, we'll have to just call it there," and undecided. So it was still definitely technically possible for me to win, but I wasn't on that trajectory. But every game I played was, just such a good sort of spirit of friendliness, and it was a really, really nice atmosphere. The Scottish contingent came down with a massive thing of jelly beans.
Oh wow!
So God knows what germs were in there from sort of like 30 different blokes putting their hands into that. Nice bottle of whiskey that they brought down, which they just leave on the table and whatever. So very, very, very kind. The hotel, the big story at the hotel from the staff, who of course we know quite well, was about the naturists. that had been staying there, and just how and literally being told the different willy sizes of the guy that was so big they couldn't even look in his direction. It was and then
There's
they
a
all
double
started
L, was
doing
it? That was.
yeah. Then they started doing naked yoga, and that was it. The staff had enough. I think it was. They just did not know where to. But these were not there when we were there. They were there a couple of weeks before us. But it's a fantastic tournament. So wherever you are in the world, if you're going to be in the UK in March or November, there's a tournament in Blackpool. This one was Bounding Fire, which is in November. Pete Phillips runs the one in March, doesn't he?
Right. And so you were playing play tested scenarios or pre-play tested. What was the?
So I think they are play tested.
But not published. Is that right?
Scenarios. Do you know what? I don't know.
Oh, okay. So usually, in the past, they've done it where I think Bounding Fire have provided some almost ready to go.
Yeah, I think that was the case. Yeah, I think it was that they were almost ready to go, and in fact we were invited to do playtest reports ourselves of the scenarios.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it was a good success. I know Simon and Andy were doing a lot of work towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Simon was quite anxious about it, but he did a very good job.
And Simon's another guy who's had a tough year as well, hasn't he? With his
absolutely.
Dad, I think, has passed. Yeah. He was doing a lot of work there. So we're all. It's incredible that people put their time and effort into. So many other people can have a good time. They sacrifice their time and everything. So well done for Simon and Andy for stepping up and doing that. And the danger is you do it too well, and then you never get to play in another tournament again if you like going. So.
He played a couple of games.
Did he?
But he was quite busy, really, one way or another.
Yeah, I'm glad it was taken in the spirit about the adjudications and stuff. That's always a dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, as it happens, I think the thing is, as long as it's clear, and Simon was very, very clear at the beginning that he'd be strict about it, and then but he was very, very concerned because one of the games there was the danger that it would run on into the next day, and it ran perfectly and everybody understood, and he came round, he was checking how we were doing. It was perfect.
And do you know who won the tournament?
Yeah, it was Martin Vicker. Martin Vicker, okay. From Aberdeen. Yeah,
strong player.
Yeah, absolutely a strong player. Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Well done, Martin, then, and well done you for. Did you get a booby prize or anything, or did you finish?
No. I just lost most of my games and came home. Yeah.
Well done, you.
I was up very, very late with drinking whiskey one night. That was quite pleasant.
So who's the real losers, eh? Not you. The guys that went to bed early. They were the ones.
Eric, I was up late with Eric from Texas.
Oh, he was there, was he?
He was there. Well, he comes every year. I mean, it's amazing to come all that way every year for a tournament, isn't it? And he likes drinking, Eric. You may have noticed that. So brilliant. So it was me and him up late. Pete Phillips was with us. But then at 2 a.m, his taxi arrived to take him out to a nightclub.
That's brilliant. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Amazed me.
Good stuff. Well done, everybody, for doing that. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the St Mary Glees Day 2. Okay, so Day 2, Martin. Sorry, not Day 2, is it? It's the afternoon. So although it says Day 2,
it's the afternoon. Correct.
So what we got here is the setup now for the positions that we're in. The victory conditions for this campaign are that I have to, as the Germans, take this building here, or I have to put, I think, 14 firepower at the end of the campaign game itself, the whole campaign game. I think 14 firepower points off on this road here. I think from this roadblock outwards here.
That's right.
You are coming on again from the right hand side. You've got some gliders that will be landing somewhere.
Turn 5, I think.
Up here. You've got a fairly strong force still kind of holding in the bocage on the left-hand side here. And I've got a reasonable size force coming in on the left-hand side.
definitely.
It's worth noting that you have a ridiculously nasty heavy machine gun 10 minus 2
Who's
combo.
wounded,
He's wounded,
unfortunately.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
in this area here. So that
On
is,
level 3 as well, so you can see over the bocage.
yeah, level 2, is it? Level 2?
Level 2 he is, sorry, yeah, level 2.
Yeah, and that is going to cause me all sorts of problems. And this is one of those ones where that false multiplier of just having the not taking the shot early does you such a good job on this
Yeah.
this scenario, because it really does restrict my movement here. We've got a couple of Marders that have got their high explosive back again, thanks to the refit kind of in between rules.
Yeah. The pro-German rules.
That's
yeah.
right, yeah, clearly pro-German. Your guys here, we've missed the rule in this game, should be under ammunition shortage.
Yeah.
But that's, it is what it is. We missed that.
Yeah.
And I have also an SSR that I've got to get, I think, behind, I think it's maybe this line here, somewhere around here, by the end of the campaign game. Otherwise, I lose any units that are to the right of it. I've still got an anti-tank gun and a anti-aircraft gun that are floating around on the right-hand side. I'm only able to move these guns 3 hexes whilst they're in my setup.
It gives me at least a clue as to where they are. One of the issues is, of course, that anti-aircraft gun could be very, very dangerous when the gliders land on that right-hand side.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I guess we've just got to get across and into the buildings in here. I made the complaint in this one when you and I were playing, that it feels like everything is in the Americans' favor. Now, this isn't necessarily true, but it feels like this, in that your troops are much better than mine. You've got every one of your guys is 7 morale. You've got your 7 firepower. You've got your assault fire. You've got your spraying fire, I think, on a few bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You've got better tanks than me. I think your tanks, and you've got more of them. You've got the heavy machine guns. You've got the terrain, which I think suits the defender here. Although I know that there's some feelings that the Bocage generally suits the attacker, but it's still quite hard work when you haven't got wall advantage. Trying to get across here, for example, it's quite tricky. And the time is against the Germans as well. In theory, if
That's true.
If the scenarios ended, now the scenarios may end by the end of turn 5 or the end of turn 6 or the end of turn 7, based on a dice roll, and you can have some kind of modifier. I rolled kind of poorly on my reinforcements roll, so I got the lowest number of reinforcements. But you didn't do. I think you did a reasonable amount of damage, but I did a little bit of damage back to you as well. I think at this point, I've taken 19 CVP and you've taken 7. So, and I think I've declared no caution. I don't think you have at this point. So I think that's where we are. I lost a few units in the escaping rules. Basically, we draw these perimeters, and then if units can't trace themselves back to the in supply setup areas, they have to try and roll for an escape. And that can be
you rolled very badly, didn't you?
I did roll very badly, on this roll, and lost probably. I think I lost maybe 3 squads or something like that. But again, I mean, one man's rolling badly is another man's poor planning, and definitely I could have planned better for thinking about where the units might be. And I think we talked to Indy very briefly about this, but playing this the first day of the scenario, or the first campaign day of the scenario, the second time around, after just playing it once and then playing it all over again, will do wonders for the campaign play. I just think,
and in fact, we say this every time we play a campaign game, but I think it's just the limits of how much time is available to us, is that we always end up just playing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. What are your feelings at the start of this one?
Well, I remember thinking, I feel like I've got a lot of strength in St. Mary-Eglise.
Yep.
And on the right-hand side, you have very little strength, especially because you've set up to attack St. Mary-Eglise, haven't you, in the centre there, rather than to defend against my parachuters coming on from the right-hand side. But I'm going to have to I'm going to have to sort of collapse, especially on the extreme left, which is the north, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to try to sort of like come back in good order. You know, there's a bit of me thinks I might have been better off just defending the town almost. You know, there's a danger I'm going to lose things trying to withdraw. So it's a bit of a fighting withdrawal, I think, in the north. And actually,
Right.
you play a set of numbers. It's actually, you've got a very strong force, albeit a lot of them are conscripts, and you know, you've got some of those sort of disadvantages, haven't you? It is quite a strong force, and there's that problem, isn't there, that you're coming from like all directions.
Right.
Like I've got to stop you getting into that village, and you potentially can infiltrate, sneak through, you know, one place I can't see and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
you know, I'm very conscious of that.
I've got some dummies on the top left. So the three northwesternmost units, as we look at this map, I know that north is maybe not straight up, but anyway, but these guys up here in the top left are all dummy units, and we'll see how well those guys do. So here we go. Now it's always a challenge to know where we're looking on these maps. I'll zoom out for a bit, and we'll zoom in when we need to. So it's worth mentioning. I didn't manage to get the OBA off at all on the first campaign date. So I still retain the OBA.
That's
It
right.
wasn't clear, was it, whether or not I start with a new deck or not, and I couldn't really work that out. I wasn't sure. We've given it in my favour that I get a new.
I think you start with a new deck. I think I've always played it like that in campaign games.
All right, okay. It's just
but you're right.
not obvious, and it may be
It
that.
must say it somewhere. It must say it somewhere, but I'm sure somebody will clarify that.
So if anyone knows about whether we get a new deck, like rather than having the 4 black cards or whatever, so that's that, and we're kind of floating around with some mortar attacks and bits and pieces that aren't going to do a lot. I'll zoom in for these bits. So basically, at this point, it's really just trying to move into the middle, and I'll just try and get some control back here. These guys down here fought quite hard for this control marker on the first day, and now you've pulled back, but you've definitely got the good ground here for me to struggle to take.
And we know they're conscripts, don't we?
That's right, exactly. So we've got that going on. Just looking around where we're moving now. So I think we've got
left-hand side.
Left-hand side up the top. Yes, it's the dummies. The dummies attacking, and then some guys creeping up. Okay. Now this is the other interesting rules question we had. So when you are looking at the heavy machine gun here, and it's potentially firing into, like, from this area here across, we've got this bocage here, and we're not quite sure what range this bocage is at, because you might argue that it's in this range or it's at this range, and obviously we know if the unit is here, we know how to count the range, but the bocage is kind of in both hex sides. You decided that the rule was that because it suggests that it's like the one level obstacle is in the target hex. It felt like that suggested that it was on the hex side towards my unit, but it kind of made a difference. I think one of these shots, because this was either at range 9 or range 10, and that obviously has an effect on the blind hexes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if anyone can give us a definitive,
that would be great. That would be great to have that. Yeah.
I don't know quite how we count the range of half hex obstacles like that. So on they come, and again, I think that was we went in my favour on that rule, but we did look a bit around that.
I think that we played it correctly, but I'll be interested to hear what people say.
Okay. So a little bit of pinning, a little bit of opportunity firing.
Already on close combat.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, up here. So we've got you got me a hero, didn't you? So all the heroes kind of usually just disappear in between the campaign games. So I got one very quickly here. Got you pinned, and got my guy here. So we both roll well on the close combat to give us both a casualty. Give you a casualty reduction. Sorry,
I was casualty reduced.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
fire in from your evil
Yes.
heavy
So
machine
this is
gun.
my turn now, obviously.
Your guys are going to kind of push forward on the right hand
Yeah.
side at some point.
Searching for the two guns.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. You're desperately trying to find these two guns, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, you're doing some stuff here,
Yeah.
and to no avail. Back into the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to fall back safely.
Yeah. It's all.
I've got a funny little half squad on the extreme left-hand side. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, this guy. Yeah. This guy here at the top here, yeah, who's gonna wander all the way down here, and he's gonna be a real pest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I break my medium machine gun.
Yeah. And I certainly get some effect with that 10 - 2 wounded leader.
I think I generate another hero somewhere, or something goes quite well. There's a double one that we has some kind of effect, and I think we realised it didn't have quite the effect we thought it did.
See, I feel quite intimidated with these guys moving in St. Mary Glees in the centre.
Yeah.
It's I've got a very strong force. I thought right, I'll have no trouble here, but it's difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah, it was
going round about the houses there to avoid the heavy machine gun.
Yeah, that's right. Without that heavy machine gun, I would be able to get so much further.
Yeah.
And I'm just stuck. So I didn't give you that many good shots, but you slowed me down so much that it was
exactly
it was huge.
Almost irrelevant.
Yeah. So we get a good effect here against your broken guys here, your unit here. To the point where really this is almost collapsing your northern.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it felt. I mean, I've lost the whole squad.
Yeah.
Another squad broken. Mind you, I've got good places for them to fall back to rally.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right.
And you're absolutely in the village.
Yeah. So that's that was the first section. So we carry on going. You're starting to key into the prep fire, and we're still kind of worried about our Bocage hexes here.
So that machine gun is having effect when it gets a shot.
Definitely. Yeah. But you're pulling back and you're okay. There's your whole squad.
Yeah, I get caught up in that little village, don't I, in band K7, I think is don't fall back quick enough from there.
Right.
But then I'm intimidated by a bunch of dummies.
That's this. Yeah, these guys up here in this like these three stacks. Yeah. That's right. Exactly that. Exactly. So these three dummies have made it to here. They're still a little bit they are struggling. And my idea is if I can just advance into here, I'm thinking I'll kind of potentially trap you. The issue is if you get there first, these guys can never move any further. so I'm kind of like a little bit nervous about just what effect they're going to have.
Yeah.
You kind of meet me into the front of the town.
Yeah.
We've got some more movement going on at the back here. Oh, you find one of the guns. I managed to break one of your units, and you do some searching. But you're able to fairly easily surround this guy.
Yeah.
The Marder's getting a little bit concerned.
I'm definitely getting ready for a multi-directional attack on that Marder.
That's right. You go hold down here. What's the plan with the hold down here? Was you thinking I was going to attack you?
I just thought you might. I wondered why else you would be there. And I've got too many tanks at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
More tanks kind of floating around. You've got your half track with, I think it's got a heavy and a medium.
That's right.
In there. Yeah. So the Marder has a little effect. Oh, the other thing we spotted on this a little bit late as well was that the HE depletion numbers of the Marders are greater. I think they're 11 or 9 rather than 7. I think that's
okay.
So
I think 9. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the SSRs that was spotted. Okay, so
I did notice actually how aggressive you were, especially right in close in St. Mary Glees. You took chances and got in close, and so obviously recognised that the only chance you had really was to to press.
That's right. I'm thinking I don't want to get caught by your force on the right hand side and then having to be trying to get. So I'm thinking if I can at least trying to be the one defending Samari Glaze, that would be the preference.
Ideal.
Yeah, there's a little bit of advancing fire on the right where you're searching for some bits. We break the guys in the building, and suddenly you've got 2 breaks, and you're being defended by one concealed squad.
That's right.
Which is kind of nice. The problem I've got is that I could try to trap your guys, but I've only got the dummies that can get there. This is the problem. So we have a bit of that.
But I'm definitely going to lose a fair bit of force, and there's a medium machine gun as well in that K4 building,
right?
Which I'm going to lose access to.
So I pulled 3 black chits out on my OBA. So that's
very difficult for you to get to do much with it, isn't it? You were hoping for smoke.
No, I was hoping just to land it right in the middle of your guys and just kill them all.
Cause a lot of damage. Yeah.
I think maybe the smoke would have been okay, but I think the problem I've got is that in close combat I'm so far behind unless I'm 2 squads to 1 for every one of your guys. And even then you're still able to pick them off one at a time.
Yes.
And so that's the issue. But I do, I think suddenly Samari Glaze is looking a little bit dangerous for you. I mean,
absolutely. I'm panicking
here.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's causing me to want to like fall back even quicker on the left because I kind of feel like I need to bring some of those because I've got a lot of force on the left hand side.
Right.
And I feel like they need to be in the church.
Right. I managed to take the southern building as well.
Break another unit and eliminate him. Failure to rout.
That's right. On the left hand side, we're pushing in a bit. A bit of final fire.
It's going to end up with a lot of close combats, isn't it? The way this is going.
Right.
So,
yeah. So we push in.
Managed to get a good break in CC15. It was handy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We get some pins there.
It's still 100% like converging on that church. I've only got 1 747 in there.
Right.
But actually, a 747 is quite a good. And even then, I've moved him out.
Yep. Yeah, I break another guy as you approach here. So you have got massive firepower like adjacent to me.
Yeah.
But
I have to get something else back there. That's why I moved that bazooka, I think, into the square so I can get because otherwise I'm in the danger of you taking control of the whole building, aren't I? And having to wrest it back off you.
Right. So your Shermans are coming in into town. You're still looking for this last gun. I start to worry if I've cheated you. I don't know if I did. I didn't think I did. But you're so convinced that the gun can't be where I think it is. That I kind of feel a bit bad about it, really. So
you get a good shot with it in a minute, I think, don't you?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe I might get one shot.
I think it's a KIA.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I was starting to get a bit blasé about it now.
Right.
See, everything I get in that building breaks.
Yes. Yeah.
But we got now I've got hardly anything. I mean, there's a massive close combat. There's loads of close combat.
Yes.
And outside of that close combat, I've got very, very little.
Right, exactly.
A bazooka team.
And I look at this.
Machine guns for the full squad. Yeah.
And I'm thinking if I get lucky on 2 close combats here, this is possibly the game. Yeah, it's possibly the game.
Yeah, definitely.
So of course I rolled a double 6.
Of course you did.
Of course. It's a we draw out. And we continue on. So let's look at the next continuation.
There's another squad in it's AA10. That's right, under that acquisition counter.
All right. So I have to bring another.
I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I feel like I've been reprieved, to be honest, at this point.
That's right, you do.
So
you've got these guys broken in level 1. I've got my dummies that I can't move underneath you because it won't DM you. So I'm kind of stuck with them here. And now you've got this. I guess it's a leader, is it? I don't know. Over here.
No, it's a 747.
Oh, okay. All right.
And a broken 747.
Right. Okay. So I have to kind of, push quite hard.
Yeah. It's tough because I'm potentially losing 3 squads over there.
And notice, by the way, I even pull this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Because I don't quite know how I'm going to explain to you that you don't get interdicted if you run out and all this kind of stuff. I'm kind of okay. So
this is a strong force moving down that road, the bottom left. No, I can't do much about it.
That's right.
Can't do much about it at all. The only thing that's in my benefit is that they can't keep going down there forever.
Right. Exactly. They will stop. So here's where
again moving out, and this is difficult. Well, but you were saying.
Yeah, well, I force you to final protective fire this guy here on the basis that if I can get you a morale check, I'm quite happy with that. But it
doesn't go my way.
Yeah.
But this whole thing about infiltration, there's people coming in from everywhere. I can't have a proper cordon sanitaire, as they say in barking. Yeah.
I've got a lot of broken guys that aren't coming back anytime soon. But you'll if I get this.
But I'm starting to win in the top part of the village, and because of that, hopefully my force will be able to come back down.
Yeah, exactly. So you are definitely slowly winning that. The quality is showing over the quantity in the town.
Definitely.
But we're closer. Yeah. So I let you go here. So I can't quite.
And I'm just placing dummies to literally just be in your way now.
Now I think you voluntarily broke this guy up.
I did, yeah.
And I was surprised with that. I thought you might just try and stand and fight.
Well, he was pinned.
Right.
You had a -1 leader, didn't you?
Yep.
And you were concealed.
Yep.
So it would have been an almost certain ambush.
I get lucky on a close combat with a 1-1 inside the village. It gives me my leader. I have to go up the hill to to try and escape the CX and everything, and the imminent close combat. It DMs you. More broken guys down here for me.
Yeah. I only just hanging on, but it is slowly turning my way.
Yes. Now it's turn 4. I think the next turn you are going to get your gliders coming to land.
Yeah. Got the anti-aircraft gun, and I think I lost something running in front of it.
Right. Yeah. So it's worth saying that at the moment now the CVP is 32 to you, and I have inflicted 22 points of CVP across the whole campaign. Sherman's making some efforts to push forward. I don't do a lot against those guys. The bazookas come back in to help defend, and this is at this point, I'm, you're holding on. The whole of the campaign game is resting on pretty much one bazooka squad.
Yes,
and a couple of guys on the outskirts.
That's true.
So those guys.
There's a broken squad in there. That's all. Yeah, and as you say, the bazookas.
Yeah, my guys break, and suddenly now it looks a little bit safer for you. You've got your.
I've got squads converging on the victory condition building, and I'm winning some of the close combats.
That's right.
I don't know what happened with the melee. It's still on.
Yeah.
I think I'm beginning to win it though. I've got a leader in there as well, haven't I? 6+1 that I got from somehow.
That's right. It was a 1-1 on your close combat. So suddenly now I've got two half squads. So I'm going to bring in my third half squad, and I'm going to bring in my leader as well to try and get up to 7. And this is my OBA, which I really don't want to be thrown in a close combat. But decide that I need the.
You're making good progress in that bottom left where we're watching at the moment as well.
Yes.
And I'm beginning to struggle there. I haven't got enough to really properly challenge you there.
Right.
Not properly.
Yeah. The dummies are making great progress. I'm kind of thinking, why, if these weren't squads, these would have been brilliant. These guys would be like really quite useful.
Do you know what? Even if they were just half squads, they would
Yeah.
be really, really difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
to deal with.
Um,
Yeah, I wasn't quite expecting you to get there. I didn't count that carefully enough. Bit disappointed that you
yeah.
got around them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These two guys catch out. I think that's quite a big deal there for me, because it opens up this kind of like, you know, kind of top left channel to get in. Now there is another victory condition, and it's how many multi-man counter points worth of stuff inside this kind of village.
It's within 5 hexes of the depressed area.
Right.
Yeah. And I've also moved that that 10-2 wounded leader down with a heavy and the medium machine gun, so they come down to ground level.
They are lugging that thing.
Yeah.
Rules check.
I didn't want them to get cut off and stuck up there.
Right. So, and again, I mean, we're kind of half close to snatching this off you. You know, you've got one concealed squad in that building.
Yeah.
And so this is my, now this, I appreciate this is a terrible odds close combat with 2 conscript squads.
Sure.
CX and a leader.
And there is still a half squad there and two
but
other units.
In this building right now, and it's obviously my turn, so I will capture this building.
I don't think he would, because I've got a broken squad.
The broken squad will. Okay, yeah, the broken squad will.
Yeah.
And I can't mop
but
up yet.
It's close. It's close. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't mop up anyway. Yeah, because you declared no quarter. But
that's right.
Yeah.
So some bad close combat rolls from both of us.
Yeah.
Doesn't do us any good. So that's
that melee in by the graveyard is still going on. Still hasn't been resolved.
And now it's time for your gliders to come on. So we do a bit of research about what do we do when there's no wind.
Yeah.
Because that was the next question. There's been no wind in here.
Yes. Yeah.
So on come the gliders. Now this is our next question about the bocage.
Okay. Yes. So we have a bit of a debate about where they should be.
Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So if you look at I don't know, glider in CC11. So he's landing adjacent to Bocage. I mean, they're going to move. We're not going to leave them there. I think we decided. But you were arguing that hex and DD11 were Bocage hexes.
Right.
And I was arguing that it would only affect the gliders if they flew over the Bocage. This is like flying beside a wall or beside a although they're lower, it wouldn't matter with them anyway. But yeah, so we couldn't agree, and we didn't agree, I don't think, though we decided to go with your interpretation of the rules. So basically, if you take even this counter here in Y9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, I was thinking that I could subtract 5 from my roll for whether it lands in its initial hex, because all 5 hexes behind it are clear, they're open.
Right.
But you argued that DD11 and indeed CC11 were +1 in height because they're Bocage.
Yeah, that's right. So the rule kind of says you look at the approach hexes, which is the 5 preceding hexes in a kind of like a straight line, as it were.
Yeah.
And then you look to see if there are any level 1 obstacles in that hex.
In that hex, yeah.
And so my argument was, well, this feels like there's a level 1 obstacle in this hex. And I appreciate it doesn't hit the line of sight or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we'd like anybody to help us out with that one if you can.
Yeah.
What do you think about, does this give you that +1? And yeah, you're right. I think it wasn't worth us. I didn't think we wanted to, we're never going to fall out on an argument like this. But I think we wanted to play it correctly. I think that was
we would, and we couldn't agree. The other thing is it doesn't hugely matter because it's an uncontested landing. So I think in the end I just moved them somewhere else.
Exactly that. We just moved them around so they didn't have this impact.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about that. So they end up looking a bit like this, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
There's no, and basically there's just no chance of them crashing really at all, is there? There's no chance of them having a bad landing.
The interesting thing with this is because the wind direction is random, the wind direction was different. It might have been quite awkward landing them.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting little element. Of course, it could have been contested. There might have been something to fire at them.
That's right. Like the AA gun, for example, that you took out the turn before. Absolutely.
Perhaps a medium machine gun or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. In my kind of limited glider defense scenarios, it's always felt like it's just best to let the glider pilots do the damage rather than my guys, just because it seems so hard to shoot these things down.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they all land absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very unlikely that you're going to do any damage unless you have a missed approach or whatever, and you're all good. So that's all fine. So they all come down, and you're pushing on. We kind of realise that at this point, the scenario is possibly going to last one more turn, maybe no more turns, and it's probably not worth even moving these guys towards the left because you've got the areas that you need.
I think we move them one more time, don't we? Yeah. And then we decide not to bother moving them.
Just because, it will end. And there's also kind of like a temptation to roll the dice early just to see if you have to bother moving them. Because we had that debate about whether we should just check and roll it.
So I'm definitely falling back there into St. Mary Glees on the left-hand side there.
Exactly.
That's definitely a fall back.
Yeah.
But it is quite nice having such strong units.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. There's no weak spot, is there, in the American kind of like a line?
Not really, no. This is where also, though, I'm cheating a little bit without realising it, that I have a fire lane from that unit, that medium machine gun on level 1.
Right.
Which was really, really useful machine gun.
This one here.
Yeah, I do a fire lane from there.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have been able to do that.
Fair, yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
Pretty much everything's fired on my side.
Yeah.
I'm actually, it's interesting because I'm kind of willing the end of the campaign game date on the left-hand side, but want longer on the right.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think is very clever about this, the way this is designed, the fact that you're sort of defending and attacking simultaneously.
Yep.
And the pressure on you is that the force you've got in the middle will be overwhelmed by the force coming from the right-hand side if it's not quick enough.
And that's what they kind of said in terms of the campaign game design notes, was it was never going to be about the Germans capturing and holding St. Mary Glees. It's more about them trying to hold off the German kind of recapture. It was kind of unexpected that they would hold on completely. So we have the standoff still between the Marders and the Shermans. That carries on. I do get an unconfirmed kill from the mortar against one of the Shermans.
You got a lot of shots at that with a 3 rate of fire.
Yeah, and I think I needed 3s to have an effect. It wasn't going to be great.
But you get enough hits, you'll get there as you did.
Yeah, exactly. The situation in the town centre is kind of slowly resolving itself. It's not great, but you've wiped out my force with the OBA, so that's still gone for another day. And so we're pushing forward.
Presumably, you get another radio. If
it comes, I think it comes with the radio. Yeah, exactly. And that's the scenario ends at this point.
Yeah.
So that's the campaign date.
Yeah.
So we'll zoom out, just have a quick look at kind of what's happened.
I hate how you are now in St. Mary Glees on both sides.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So scrolling around, having a look at that. So we're starting to do the perimeters now. This is what there's. You can watch us trying to bodge the perimeters here. It's all quite difficult, really. And I think the right way to do this is actually use 2 different markers, one for the control points and then one for the bits that join up those controls. So this is kind of what I'm trying to do here, to kind of show
that is the right way to do it.
Where we're doing everything, and effectively we figure out our losses and everything. And so at the end of this day, which is like we've got the final session to go, you've caused 55 points and I've caused 33. So it's it's a fair. You did a fair amount of damage to me.
Yeah.
We've done our escapes and everything. We realised, I think we got this right, that the mortar crew had to try to escape, but actually wasn't actually crossing any enemy lines, so it just has to kind of withdraw back to its setup area, and the gun now sits unpossessed there.
Yeah.
And
Which
so we're we're on to the third one, which is the night scenario. So
which is going to be interesting. I'm going to have to brush up on my night rules.
We will. JR's thing. I printed that rules. You know, the JR does that brilliant article, Bring on the Night.
Yes.
And it's just it's just the must read for that whole thing. And I printed that out when I had my very first job in Xerox in I think it was 1995, and I've got the same bulldog clipping. It's stayed with me my whole life, 30 years later. It's brilliant.
I hope now you've announced this publicly that Xerox will be on to you for with a bill.
It's possibly the reason they failed in the UK. They've struggled. That bulldog clip. Was that. So what's your thoughts on this? On it?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a really cool. And actually, do you know what? It's not very big. It is sort of manageable in size. It is quite big, but it's not like one of the massive Stalingrad campaign games.
Right.
And for that reason, I think that it's something that you could play with someone who was relatively new. People play Pegasus Bridge, don't they? Because it's quite modest at the beginning. It actually gets bigger as it goes along. It's quite modest at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think this is playable by somebody who plays ASL, but they've never played a campaign game.
Yeah. I wondered why they split the first day into a day and afternoon. It felt like it could have been one 10-turn scenario. And I appreciate that there's a little bit of a breathing space where you get to rally everybody, and that was very useful for me because I had a lot of broken units at the end of both these turns. So you get a chance a little reset, but in a way, it doesn't feel like there needed to be a break between the first morning and the afternoon. You could have just interspersed some more reinforcements at this point. So that. I don't want to say it felt forced, but it felt like it was a little bit kind of crowbarred in.
It's a very sort of standard length, though, isn't it? Campaign game dates. I think they and I think perhaps that's what it is.
Yeah.
And they must be mindful that people are trying to play this, maybe trying to play that in a day.
Yeah.
The 10. I mean, you say 10, but it's 10 up to 16 days.
That's true,
isn't it?
Well, the first one can only be. I think the first one is shorter.
Yes, it is.
The first one's a little bit shorter, but yes, you're right. It could be.
It'd be quite lengthy if you don't get the rolls. And I guess, the idea that people potentially could do it in a day. I think you could do that in a day.
Definitely the first two campaign dates. I think you can squeeze into a day's worth of ASL play. Yeah. We've stopped a few times. You've got some significant commitments that you have to sort out. But I think in terms of the switch between day and night is certainly a very interesting one, and it's nice that we've got this kind of reset, but we've got this point where it's, I guess, in the balance. And I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I thought at the start of this campaign afternoon that I was losing. I think right now it's kind of in the balance. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's in the balance. It's in the balance. Yeah, and I mean, bearing in mind, you very nearly got the instant victory condition a couple of times. You were on the verge of it. It probably never quite was favouring you to get it, but it was definitely achievable.
Right, and I don't. Although it says it's not instant in terms of I've got to just hold it by the end of the campaign.
You'd have to hold it at the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
But forcing me to counterattack that church when I'm trying to defend German squads coming from all directions. Would be very difficult. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So all to play for. We're going to get through this next one. That's the thing. We've got some other exciting stuff going on. So we've got the Tuomo derby is ongoing. Those guys are going at it now. I'm going to try and find the scenario they're playing.
No one knows about it. Tuomo wrote to us, but I don't think we've announced this.
That's it. This is exactly what we're doing right now.
Okay.
So, do you remember the scenario they're playing?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I'm going to look it up.
We're not recording it.
No, we're recording. We're recording.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Martin. Episode 95.
I wasn't rude about anybody,
All right, so it's J200. I can tell you that. Do we know what J200 is?
Well, do you know what? I've got a little website that I
Have you?
sometimes use
Yeah. Okay.
that will tell me what J200 is.
Okay. Yes,
Can
indeed.
I just put in the number?
You certainly can. If you do the top left,
Um,
you'll see it. Search results. One Story Town,
yeah,
I believe, is what it is from Journal 13.
yeah,
So
one story.
Tomo and Tom, Tom and Tomo are playing this. Tom Rapetti and Tomo Lucari are playing this, and we're not going to look at their analysis beforehand, unless you
Yeah,
have, Martin, and then I will.
I haven't looked at the analysis. No.
So we're going to also play it, and then we're going to compare. So if anybody else, patrons, non-patrons, whatever, if you have a gaming partner, if you're looking to play a scenario, ideally on Vassal, that you'd like to share with us, please play One Story Town. Please send us your thoughts. We will not read them before we play either, and then we can have a kind of like a group, book reading club, as it were, for that scenario. So we'd love anybody else to join in too, and play that. And I will ask Rob if he wants to do a quick talk about these tanks, because there's some Finnish tanks and there's some Russian tanks. I mean, I say tank, I think they're armored cars, but certainly involved in this battle. So we might see if we can get Rob to do a little talk on it as well.
Fantastic.
Brings us on to our tournament. Yeah, the tournament. So Tom Rapetti had an idea, and I think it's a great idea, but I'm going to pass it across to you live on Illuminating Rounds. He suggested a designers tournament where...
Well, he sent it to me too.
Oh, did he? So you've seen this. So the idea of a designers tournament. Yeah. So we pick a designer, Pete Schelling, I don't know, whoever, great designers. There are lots of great designers. And we get in touch with them and we ask them to recommend one scenario from their collection that they would play, that we should play as part of the tournament. I have a feeling if we ask Pete, he might say Urban Guerrillas, because I know he likes that as one of his number one.
And we've played it on Illuminating Rounds.
We played it live on Illuminating Rounds.
We did indeed. Yeah.
That was a very, very good scenario, wasn't it? I think that went right to the last close combat. So we will ask. So if you've got suggestions of scenario designers that we should contact, please let us know. I'm sure maybe we can get Charles and Chuck to have that. And that reminds me, Christmas presents, Martin. Our children are getting to the age where we get some useful presents now. I've got a child who's working.
My children are getting to an age, but they take after their dad and being tight-fisted, miserable gits.
Well, my children were begging me to tell me what they could buy. So I have 3 girls. So I sent my 3 girls a link each to a scenario pack, and I had to tell this story. So they're a little bit competitive. So Grace decides she's going to go and buy a couple of these. And so she's instantly trying to find a copy of Action Pack 18, and she's trying to find me the Hazardous Movement number 4, the 4th one, which are great. And I was only expecting, at the very most, one of these from any of them. So, she's getting me 2 is great. And she's desperately trying to find it. And of course, there's not that many suppliers of ASL. And so, especially in the UK, there's, the Second Chance game. There's a few others. There are others. We're not sponsored by anybody. Yeah. So anyway, she finds Derek Ritter's site, Ritter Creek, in the States. And she orders it all. And then she's like, Dad, I love you, but, the shipping is $150. And I'm like, no, stop it. Don't buy it. And she's like, well, I think I've already pressed buy. What am I going to do? And I'm like, look, stop. Just like, we know these people. I don't know Derek, but I know of him. Speak to Derek Ritter. He will be fine. Just explain what's happened. She said to me afterwards, she said, look, I managed to cancel, but I promised him I'd buy something after him in a while. Why would you say that? I don't think she will, Derek, if you're watching, unless we move to America. But
she could have things delivered to your sister.
She certainly can. But that's asking a lot of grace. Anyway, so then she managed to find. This is a week after Bounding Fire. She managed to find Second Chance games. After I've just, told her to search for Second Chance games, she's found it. She's bought it. And then, of course, the 2 delivery options you have is pick up in store, 150 miles away near Liverpool, or at the tournament in Bounding Fire. So Grace writes to me. She says, Dad, are you going to the Bounding Fire tournament? This happened like a week before. I was like, it's already been and gone. She says, oh, well, these people don't deliver. I don't understand this shop. They don't deliver anything. How do I, this impossible stuff to buy? So just email them; it'll be fine. They'll post it to you. It's okay. So because she's gone, she's on safari right now. This is the joys of having a rich boyfriend and his family. So they've taken her on safari this week. She's in Kenya somewhere. So I got my Christmas presents early. So I do have. That's a very long story to say. I've got the new Hazardous Movement pack. So maybe we can get Charles and Chuck to suggest a tournament scenario that we can play as well.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Just suggest your favourite designers to us if you think that they'd be amenable to us approaching them, and of course, people that want to be involved in that tournament, we need to start getting names for this year, don't we?
That's right, exactly. So if you're a patron,
right, patron, yeah.
Yes, if you're a patron, please let us know. We will give preference to the slightly higher tiers, just if we happen to hit a round number, but otherwise. If you're a patron, come in. If you want to sign up for the tournament and then you want to quit after you get knocked out, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. We will sort out a good prize. Ian, I hope Dave Mariscus received his prize from Ian.
Yeah.
Dave, get in touch if you haven't. There's nothing I can do. But
well, we can check that Ian sent it.
We can certainly do that.
I'm sure Ian did send it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly that. But we'll figure that out. So yeah, that's that. And I'm looking forward to playing some good scenarios. And you don't have the pressure of picking a scenario.
No, I like that. Yeah, I like that. We'll get the designers to do it. About time they earn their living, their money, you know.
Yeah, they're in their swanky gold cars and their big mansions.
Dripping with gold jewelry, yeah.
You know what they're like, lording it above us all. Those guys in their ivory towers. All right, let's talk about burnout, Martin. Let's talk.
All right, we can talk about burnout quickly. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start? You suggested this topic.
I did suggest it. Yeah. I was just wondering if we should do it next time.
Oh, okay.
Because we've been going quite a while, and now we got something solid for next episode.
Okay. All right. We'll bait and switch, everybody.
People will be on there. We'll be desperate for the next episode.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But you suffered a little bit with a little bit of burnout recently.
I definitely have. And okay. I can just very briefly. I will talk about this. I think that ASL sometimes harbours the gameplay around negativity, and I don't mean in terms of players or anything like that, but I think in terms of like a lot of the time when stuff happens in ASL, it's bad stuff. Now, a heat of battle, I appreciate, is generally a good thing, but in terms of like failing morale checks, losing OBA access, rolling that 6 on a critical to hit, a lot of things like this. It revolves around, and it feels like sometimes. Certainly when you are in a mindset of I don't ever think that, the universe is against people or anything like that. But it sometimes feels like you spot and you are in a mindset of spotting the bad things that happen. And I'm definitely in a mode where I feel like this is going through with me. I have no issue with the Vassal dice bot. I have no issue with, loaded dice or anything like that. This is not about that. But I do sometimes feel like in a game of ASL, if you are actively kind of like looking at and being maybe subconsciously aware of the fact that, okay, well, this is a good chance to win the game here. Oh, didn't happen. Okay. Oh, well, as long as I don't get ambushed in this one here. Oh, I've been ambushed. Okay. All right. Well, as long as I pass this morale check, I'm okay. I failed the morale check, and I've had players, and it frustrates me when players say stuff to me when they are feeling like this. So I don't expect sympathy, but I wonder if through all the great things that we love about ASL, sometimes the negative aspects kind of outweigh not the game, but the gameplay experience. Sometimes in that, a lot of it is focused around the bad things that happen. That's a teaser for what we can talk about next time. But again, I'm interested in hearing about people's experiences. I don't suppose I'm the only person that has felt like and it's not can't catch a break or anything like that. It's nothing like that. But it feels, and we've definitely mentioned it in the past, like you sometimes feel like you've done the correct thing, and I get it, your dice fail you, and I do like the idea of like, it's two players watching a game unfold. It's not a direct reflection of skill levels. If I pass a 3 morale check and you fail a critical task check on the last turn on a 1 firepower shot or whatever. And so don't get me wrong, it's nothing like that. But I think that can contribute to people feeling like, oh, I haven't enjoyed that loss as much as, and nobody enjoys losing games. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even I know that ASL is probably one of the best games for enjoying a loss. You can enjoy a great game and come away thinking, well, that was good. But I think recently I felt like, all that's in my mind is, well, okay, there's that broke and this broke and then that thing happened and then this got ambushed and no one wants to be that guy. So that's where I'll leave.
That was a long teaser, Dave. That was a long teaser. I have got things to say. I think we got more to say on this topic.
Perfect. Okay, good stuff.
Because I think I suffer from burnout in a completely different way to you. So it'd be interesting. So if you got something to say about burnout, then put some comments in and it'll give us something to talk about next time. But Martin Mayers, I know, feels very similar to you. He hates the I think he thinks very carefully. He's got a good plan, and then you roll double six and that's it. The plan's out the window, isn't it? And it's So it's interesting. Yeah, my burnout is very different to yours.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Okay.
It won't be that interesting when you actually hear it, though. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be good. Again, thanks to everybody for their support and everything. Apologies for taking us a little bit longer to get this one out. It did take us, I think, 4 or 5 sessions to get through that day. And we will get through the night rules, and then we'll get on to day 3, and then we'll move on to lots of other stuff to do. So we'll be back
to look forward to.
All right then. Cheers, Martin.
Cheerio.
Take care.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.